Welcome back to the Numis Hunter, where every coin tells a story and every pocket change discovery has the potential to change your life. And today we're diving into one of the most astonishing, unbelievable, and mind-bending tales in the world of rare coins, because we're talking about the mysterious, rare, and potentially multi-million dollar 1977 one dime that some believe could be worth up to an earth-shattering $65 million due to the extreme, unusual, and highly improbable errors and mistakes that might exist on a handful of surviving pieces. And as you stay with me through this deep exploration, you'll understand why this seemingly ordinary 10-cent coin has become one of the most talked about topics in modern numismatics, and why its potential errors have captured global attention. The 1977 dime was struck at a time when the U.S. Mint was transitioning through various quality control challenges, equipment updates, die replacements, and metal planchet inconsistencies, and because of that environment, it produced a perfect storm for rare mint errors. And collectors have speculated for years that some of these errors may have slipped into circulation unnoticed, only to surface decades later with jaw-dropping value. And the possibility of multi-million-dollar worth is tied to this. Tiny coins' hypothetical combination of dramatic, extreme, and highly improbable mint mistakes that, if verified on any specimen, would immediately send its value into the stratosphere. Imagine for a moment a 1977 dime struck on a completely wrong planchet, say a copper cent planchet, or even more shocking, a foreign coin blank accidentally fed into the press during a busy production cycle. And imagine that this wrong planchet strike came with an off-center imprint so dramatic that part of the design is missing while the other part is rotated or doubled. Something that only happens when dies misalign or malfunction at the exact moment of striking. And imagine also the presence of a rare transitional element, like an unexpected composition mix, where the metal is neither standard clad nor standard copper, but something experimental accidentally introduced during test procedures. And collectors know that such combinations are the holy grail of mint errors. The kind that auction houses compete to sell, and the kind that millionaire collectors fight over because they represent a one-of-a-kind production anomaly that can never be replicated. But the story doesn't end there, because the possibility of double or even triple striking adds another layer of value. Picture a 1977 dime struck once, then again without the original imprint being fully ejected from a press, causing overlapping images of Roosevelt's profile, misaligned lettering, ghost-like outlines, and distortions that instantly reveal the mint's mechanical failure. And when such a coin survives in high grade with little wear, its value skyrockets since collectors treat multi-strike errors like historical artifacts of machinery malfunction frozen in time. Another possibility tied to the multi-million-dollar valuation is a rare wrong die strike, meaning a 1977 dime accidentally struck with a die intended for a completely different denomination or year. And while such events are incredibly rare, they have happened in mint history, producing world-famous coins that sell for millions today. And if such a hybrid combination were found on a dime, especially from a 1970s mint environment where quality checks were not as advanced as today, it would become one of the most significant mint errors ever discovered. Beyond physical minting mistakes, experts also consider extremely rare die clashes where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a coin in between, leaving behind deep, unusual outlines and patterns that transfer onto the next coins produced. And if a 1977 dime contains an exceptionally strong or visually dramatic die clash pattern, especially one showing shapes from the opposite side of the coin in unexpected positions, the uniqueness could drive its value into the tens of millions. Add to this the possibility of dramatic broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads outward like a wide, flat disc without reeded edges, or edge lettering anomalies, or struck through errors where foreign materials like fragments of cloth, metal shavings, grease blobs, or machinery particles accidentally interfere with the striking process, creating permanent indentations, lines, or shapes embedded into the coin's surface. And suddenly you have a coin that becomes not just an error piece, but an irreplaceable piece of mint history. Now imagine combining several of these errors into a single 1977 dime, such as a wrong planchet strike that's simultaneously off-center, rotated, double-struck, and struck through, something so outrageously rare that it would be considered a once-in-a-century mint anomaly. And collectors agree that such a specimen, if authenticated in pristine condition, could indeed fetch colossal figures like $65 million because rarity in numismatics is not just about age, but about uniqueness. And a coin that is literally the only one of its kind becomes priceless to collectors with deep pockets. Another major factor that fuels this hypothetical value is the intense demand for error coins in today's market, where viral stories, online auctions, and collector communities have boosted the popularity of rare mistakes more than ever before, and ultra-wealthy collectors from around the world compete aggressively for standout specimens, particularly those with dramatic visual errors that require no magnification to appreciate, making them trophy pieces for high-end collections. And because of that competitive environment, even moderately rare errors sell for thousands, while extreme errors with perfect eye appeal regularly hit 6 or 7 figures. So an unprecedented combination of errors on a 1977 dime could realistically achieve the kind of legendary pricing people talk about. We must also consider the tiny mintage differences between Philadelphia and Denver issues in 1977, as well as undocumented die replacements, production shifts, and machine repairs that sometimes resulted in small batches of coins being struck under abnormal conditions. And if one of those abnormal batches included experimental testing or accidental equipment malfunction, a rare survivor could be hiding somewhere today. Collectors speculate endlessly about such coins because history has shown that some of the most valuable mint errors ever discovered were found not by experts, but by ordinary people checking their pocket change. And the idea that someone out there might unknowingly possess a multi-million-dollar 1977 dime adds to the mystery surrounding its potential. Even slight variations like missing mint marks, filled dies causing weak details, excessive die polishing that removes parts of the design, misaligned dies, rotated reverses, or coins struck with worn or cracked dies can add to value when they appear in extreme forms. And if any 1977 dime demonstrates an exceptionally dramatic example of these errors, especially on a high-grade, uncirculated piece, its worth could be unimaginable. This also extends to rare subtypes like full-band strikes on the torch, deep cameo proof-like surfaces that appear on circulation coins, mirror-like fields created accidentally, and unusual luster patterns from die, over-polishing, or metal inconsistencies. And when these appear in combination with errors, the appeal becomes even stronger. All of these possibilities form a massive cloud of speculation and excitement around the 1977 dime, because until every surviving example is carefully examined, the chance remains that a coin with extraordinary errors could surface, and when it does, collectors, auction houses, and investors know the bidding war would be fierce, pushing the price far beyond normal error coin ranges. And so the legend grows, the hunt intensifies, and every collector, treasure seeker, and enthusiast wants to be the one who finds that mythical piece worth $65 million. That one dime with the perfect combination of rarity, error complexity, visual drama, historical significance, and collector demand, turning an ordinary 10-cent piece into one of the greatest discoveries in numismatic history. And that's why we continue to explore. Next, 1987 D1 dime could be worth an astonishing $19 million because of rare, dramatic, and extraordinary mint errors and mistakes that might exist on a tiny number of surviving examples. And as we break down every potential error, every mint anomaly, and every mechanical mishap, that could make this coin so valuable, you'll understand why collectors continue to search, why experts continue to speculate, and why the 1987 D-dime has become one of the most talked about hidden treasures in American pocket change. The 1987 production year at the Denver Mint was marked by extremely high output, fast-paced machinery operation, rapid die usage, and constant changes to equipment. And whenever a mint runs at such intense speed, the chances of unusual errors, mechanical misalignments, and accidental oversights significantly increase. And many of the most valuable error coins in U.S. history were created during busy production years, just like this one, which fuels the belief that extraordinary mistakes could have been struck on some 1987 D-dimes. One of the biggest possibilities that could push a dime's value into multi-million-dollar territory is a wrong planchet strike. And this happens when a coin intended to be a dime is accidentally struck on a blank mint for another denomination or a foreign coin. And if a 1987 D-dime were struck on a copper Lincoln cent planchet, a nickel planchet, a leftover experimental planchet, or even the blank of an international coin, the result would be a completely unique and highly valuable mint error that could easily command staggering prices because wrong planchet errors combine rarity, visual impact, and undeniable mint origin mistakes, making them some of the most sought-after errors in the hobby. Another major factor behind the $19 million speculation is the possibility of extreme off-center striking, which occurs when the dies and the planchet fail to align properly and the coin is struck with the entire design shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a large blank arc of metal and turning the dime into an unmistakable mint error. And collectors always pay huge premiums for off-center errors, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because that allows the coin to be fully identifiable while still displaying a dramatic mechanical misstrike. And an extreme offsetter 1987 D-dime in high grade could become one of the rarest errors of the decade. Another error that could contribute to such a high value is a double strike or multi-strike, which occurs when the coin is struck more than once because it fails to eject cleanly between strikes. And when this happens, you get overlapping images, doubled lettering, shadow-like outlines, rotated impressions, or warped shapes created by the second strike hitting a partially already formed design. And collectors highly value dramatic double strikes because they visually show the exact moment a minting malfunction occurred, making the coin a sort of frozen snapshot of mechanical chaos inside the press room. And 1987 D-dime with a strong, clear, visually spectacular double strike could reach historic prices. But the potential value becomes even more realistic when you consider the possibility of wrong die strikes, which are among the rarest mint errors ever discovered. And wrong die errors occur when the mint accidentally pairs a dime planchet with a die intended for another denomination or another year, creating an impossible hybrid coin that should never exist. And although rare, several famous wrong die errors have surfaced from different decades, proving that such mistakes have happened before. And if a 1987 D-dime were struck using the wrong reverse or wrong obverse die, or struck with a mismatched combination due to die rotation or misplacement during production changes, the resulting coin would be unimaginably rare and extremely valuable. Another highly collectible error that could appear on a 1987 D-dime is a die clash, which happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, causing elements from one die to transfer faintly or strongly into the other. And coins struck with these clash dies will show ghostly outlines of the reverse design on the obverse or vice versa. And if the clash is unusually strong or uniquely positioned, collectors consider the coin incredibly desirable, especially if other errors are also present. Additionally, broad strikes remain a major possibility for increasing value, and a broad strike occurs when the retaining collar that forms the coin's rim fails, causing the coin to spread outward with a wider, flat, unreeded edge, and broad strikes with clear, Strong details and wide expansion always attract serious interest because they visually demonstrate a complete failure of the collar mechanism. And a wide broad strike, 1987D dime, could be worth far more than many collectors might expect. Struck-through errors also add to the potential multi-million-dollar scenario, and these occur when foreign materials like grease, cloth fibers, metal shavings, wire pieces, dust buildup, or machinery debris interfere with the strike, leaving unusual textures, missing details, or imprinted shapes on the surface of the coin, and a dramatic struck-through error on a 1987D dime, especially one affecting Roosevelt's face or the torch design, could turn an ordinary dime into an extremely valuable piece of mint history. Die deterioration errors, such as massive die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, can also increase the value of a coin significantly. And while small die cracks are somewhat common, an enormous die break running across the coin or a raised blob where part of the die has physically broken away can make a piece extremely collectible, particularly if the error is dramatic, unusual, or accompanied by other striking errors. Another error that could help explain the $19 million speculation is a rotated die error, where the reverse of the coin is not aligned properly with the obverse, and instead of the standard alignment, the reverse might be rotated 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or somewhere in between, and rotated die errors from the 1980s are relatively uncommon. So a strong example on a 1987D dime would bring heavy collector interest. However, the real possibility of a $19 million valuation lies in combination errors, the rarest and most valuable type of mint mistake. And combination errors occur when 2, 3, or even more major minting mishaps happen at the exact same moment, such as a wrong planchet dime that is also off-center and double-struck, or a broad-strike dime with a massive die crack and a struck-through foreign object, or a rotated die coin with an extreme off-center strike and a strong die clash. And because combination errors are so rare, they are often considered one-of-a-kind, and one-of-a-kind coins with dramatic errors can reach values that defy all expectations because collectors fight aggressively to own such unique pieces. The late 1980s Denver mint environment also contributes to this speculation because the equipment was aging, dies were heavily used, and production was intense, meaning the chances of rare mistakes increased during such periods. And although not every error survives, the possibility remains that one extraordinary coin slipped through unnoticed. Add to this the booming modern interest in error coins, the massive number of new collectors searching through their change, the rise of online auction bidding wars, and the fascination with dramatic and visually stunning mint errors, and the idea of a $19 million 1987D dime becomes less of a fantasy and more of an exciting possibility that keeps treasure hunters searching every day. And what makes this story even more thrilling is that many of the most valuable coins in history were found by ordinary people who simply paid attention to the change in their pockets, meaning that the next great discovery could be yours, hidden in a coin jar, a forgotten drawer, or a roll of dimes from the bank. And that's why the 1987D dime continues to fascinate the numismatic world, because until every coin is checked, the possibility remains that a spectacular, once-in-a-lifetime error, coin worth $19 million, is still out there waiting to be found. Next, 1989D dime, that some believe could be worth an astonishing $26 million due to a combination of extremely rare mint errors, production anomalies, and one-in-a-billion mistakes that transform an ordinary piece of pocket change into a legendary collectible capable of shaking the numismatic world. So get ready as we explore every angle, every possibility, and every error that might elevate this unassuming tiny coin into the category of priceless treasures that collectors would do anything to own. Now, when it comes to United States coinage, dimes are often overlooked simply because of their small size and massive production volume. But that's exactly why the rarest errors become so valuable. One tiny mistake buried among hundreds of millions of perfectly struck coins suddenly becomes a hidden gem, a once-in-a-generation find. And the 1989 D-dime is a perfect example of how a subtle flaw, especially one that escaped quality control, can transform into a multi-million-dollar rarity. And when enthusiasts talk about a $26 million valuation, they're not imagining a typical off-center strike or a simple misalignment. They're imagining a combination of multiple compounding errors. Things like double dies, extreme off-center misstrikes paired with planchet issues, mint-mark punches gone wrong, wrong planchet strikes, or transitional metal anomalies that are so rare they can occur only when incredibly unusual circumstances line up perfectly at the Denver Mint. One of the main theories circulating among collectors is the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, where the die intended for a dime accidentally struck a planchet mint for a quarter or even a foreign coin. Because in the late 1980s, the United States Mint produced foreign coinage from multiple countries, and mistakes in planchet sorting have happened before, creating legendary rarities like cents struck on dime planchets or nickels struck on Colombian coin stock. And if a 1989 D-dime were struck on a larger or differently composed planchet, the result would be a wildly unique coin that immediately becomes the centerpiece of any advanced collection. Another possibility is a dramatic double die error, the kind where the details are so deeply doubled that even casual observers notice something is wrong. And if the doubling occurred on key details like the date, the mint mark, the portrait of Roosevelt, or the lettering on the reverse torch and branches, collectors would go into a frenzy because dramatic, unmistakable doubling is one of the most desirable errors in the hobby, and prices for extreme examples can skyrocket far beyond typical expectations, especially when paired with high preservation quality. Then we have the idea of major off-center strikes, but not the mild ones that shift by only a few percent. We're talking about wildly dramatic, eye-catching misalignments where the design is shifted by 40, 50, or even 70%, leaving part of the planchet blank and creating a striking visual that instantly separates it from normal dimes. And if such an off-center strike also retained a clearly readable date and mint mark, its desirability would multiply many times, as error collectors always seek dramatic appearance combined with identifiable origin. Another fascinating possibility is a broad strike or a partial collar strike, where the coin is struck without being fully secured in the collar, causing it to expand outward and take on a distorted, flattened shape. And in some cases, the rim disappears completely while the details spread unnaturally. And when this happens alongside another error, like a double die, off-metal planchet, or strong clash marks, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime mint freak that can command astronomical prices. Speaking of clash marks, another powerful factor that could contribute to a multi-million-dollar valuation is the presence of extreme die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the opposite design deeply impressed into the metal. And when such clashing is strong enough to be clearly visible, it becomes an instantly recognizable error that collectors chase feverishly. And if the clash happened multiple times or created unusual patterns, the coin becomes even more extraordinary. There's also the possibility of a mint mark error, especially since the 1980s was a transitional era for mint mark application. Before 1990, mint marks were still punched by hand onto the working dies, meaning human error could easily slip in, creating misplaced mint marks, tilted mint marks, or doubled mint marks, each of which is extremely collectible and, when combined with other dramatic errors, could escalate a coin's value to unimaginable heights. And if a 1989 D-dime showed something like a mint mark punched too low, too high, at an angle, or overlapping itself, it would become a star attraction for error specialists. Another theory that excites collectors is a potential transitional metal error, where a coin is struck in the wrong composition because leftover planchets from earlier years were accidentally fed into the presses. And while this is rare, it has happened with cents, nickels, and quarters. So the idea of a dime struck in silver or another unexpected alloy is not impossible. And if such a coin surfaced, authenticated with its unusual metal content, it would instantly become one of the most valuable modern errors in existence, easily reaching eight-figure territory. Beyond individual errors, what truly drives the idea of a $26 million valuation is the perfect storm scenario, where multiple rare mistakes occur together on a single coin, creating an unparalleled specimen that has literally no equal. And collectors know that when a coin is unique or nearly unique, money stops being the limiting factor because competition becomes intense, emotions take over, obsession grows, and the price can reach levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders but absolutely logical to those who recognize the rarity. Imagine a 1989 D dime struck off-center on a wrong planchet with a dramatic double-die obverse and a misplaced mint mark. That combination alone would transform it into a legendary piece spoken about for generations, a coin that would appear in auction catalogs with multiple pages dedicated to its discovery and diagnostics, a trophy collectible that the world's wealthiest numismatists would battle over. And this is why collectors inspect their pocket change so obsessively, because even though the chance is tiny, the payoff is monumental, and it only takes one astonishing discovery for someone to change their life forever, which is why stories of million-dollar coins keep inspiring people to look closely at every coin they encounter, and the 1989 D dime serves as a perfect symbol of that hope. A reminder that even small, ordinary-looking coins can hide life-changing secrets if they escape the mint with extraordinary mistakes. The coin's potential value also lies in its historical context, because late 1980s dimes were produced in massive numbers, meaning the mint was operating extremely fast. And when speed increases, mistakes become more likely, especially in die preparation and planchet feeding. So the idea that one extremely rare, dramatic error slipped out into circulation becomes entirely believable. And the numismatic world is always ready to embrace such discoveries. The excitement also grows because so many legendary error coins are found by ordinary people, not experts. Coins like off-metal strikes, extreme double dies, mules, and offset are rarities that now sit in museums or elite private collections. And each of these discoveries fuels the belief that another monumental find might be out there right now, hiding in someone's drawer, jar, or pocket, waiting to be recognized. And that possibility is exactly what makes the 1989 D dime such an electrifying topic. Because if one extraordinary example were found, authenticated, and documented, its value could skyrocket beyond expectation, and the numismatic community would erupt with excitement, debates, and speculation, creating the kind of headline that captures global attention and turns an ordinary date into a legendary phenomenon. So as we explore the world of rare coins and astonishing mint errors, the lesson is always the same. Check your change. Inspect every coin carefully. Next, 1994 P1 dime. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting possibilities collectors talk about, a hypothetical 1994 P dime that could be worth an astonishing $14 million because of a combination of extreme mint errors, rare production mistakes, and once-in-a-generation anomalies that turn a simple Philadelphia minted dime into a legendary powerhouse of value. So get ready, because what you're about to hear will make you look at every dime you touch in a completely new way. The reason stories like this capture so much attention is simple. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins, and most come out perfectly. But when even one slips through the system carrying unusual flaws, unexpected metal compositions, dramatic misstrikes, or spectacular doubling, that single defective coin becomes a treasure beyond imagination. And the 1994 P dime is one of those dates enthusiasts love to speculate about because the Philadelphia Mint was producing massive quantities in the early 1990s, and high output always brings higher chances of rare mechanical errors. One of the most compelling possibilities for a coin reaching a valuation as high as $14 million is a wrong planchet strike, where a dime die accidentally strikes a planchet mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin. In the 1990s, the mint worked with various international clients, meaning foreign planchets sometimes shared storage areas with domestic ones. And mistakes did indeed occur historically, leading to wildly rare pieces, such as cents struck on dime planchets, nickels struck on foreign brass blanks, and quarters struck on 5-cent planchets. So imagine the shock if a 1994 P dime surface struck on a copper-nickel foreign blank that didn't match the standard composition or size, instantly transforming it into a unique multi-million-dollar anomaly. Another thrilling possibility is an extreme double die error, one where the doubling is dramatic enough to leap out visually. Thick doubling on the portrait of Roosevelt, doubled lettering on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or E Pluribus Unum, or even a massively doubled date, because collectors go wild for bold doubling that can be seen without magnification. And when that doubling occurs on a modern dime, where such mistakes are incredibly rare, its value skyrockets exponentially, especially if the coin remains in surprisingly high grade, because preservation always multiplies worth. Then you have the chance of an off-center or misaligned strike, but not the small, common ones. We're talking spectacular off-center strikes where nearly half the design is missing, leaving a huge blank crescent on one side, while still retaining a visible date and mint mark, because error collectors prize dramatic visual appeal tied to identifiable origins. And a 1994 P dime with a major off-center strike and crisp details could easily command immense value, especially if paired with another error like a split planchet, die crack, or partial collar strike. Speaking of partial collar strikes, this is where the collar fails to fully hold the planchet during striking, causing the coin to expand outward unnaturally, flattening the rim, distorting the shape, and creating a bizarre appearance that immediately draws attention. And if this effect is combined with clashing marks, ghostly impressions left by the dies striking each other without a planchet in between, it becomes an even more exotic combination of errors that collectors rarely see on modern dimes. Another extraordinary error possibility is a transitional metal composition. And while transitional errors are extremely rare, they have happened and produced some of the most valuable U.S. coins ever discovered. And if a 1994 P dime were somehow struck on leftover silver planchets or experimental materials, its metal composition alone would elevate its value into the millions. Because composition errors are some of the most dramatic and easily verifiable anomalies, instantly recognizable during professional authentication and deeply appreciated by serious collectors. Another factor that could contribute to such a massive valuation is a mint mark anomaly, because before 1990 mint marks were hand-punched, but even after the transition to machine punching, misalignment, damage, or die deterioration could still create unusual mint mark appearances, such as a distorted P, a doubled P, or one placed slightly off where it normally belongs. And when combined with another powerful error, this type of anomaly can significantly increase desirability because it proves the coin passed through unusual die preparation circumstances. There's also the possibility of a mule error, one of the rarest types of mistakes in U.S. history, where two dies not meant to be paired are accidentally combined, such as a dime obverse with a foreign reverse or a mismatched denomination reverse. And while highly unlikely, mule coins have surfaced before, and they often become some of the most expensive coins ever seen at auction. Because a mule is the numismatic equivalent of witnessing lightning strike twice in the same place. Beyond individual errors, the true reason collectors speculate about such astronomical values is the idea of a perfect storm error coin, one combining multiple mistakes that occurred in a single striking event, something so unique that it becomes unmatched among all known dimes. And when a coin is unique and unmistakably genuine, wealthy collectors will stop at nothing to obtain it, pushing bidding into the tens of millions because owning such a specimen is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that instantly becomes the crown jewel of any collection. For a 1994 P dime to reach 14 million, it wouldn't just be rare. It would be a one-of-one masterpiece of accidental mint chaos. Perhaps a dramatic double die struck off-center on a wrong planchet with strong die clashes and a distorted mint mark, a combination so unbelievable that it would instantly become famous worldwide, featured in news articles, showcased at major conventions, and discussed endlessly by experts for generations. And this is exactly what keeps collectors examining their pocket change every day. The possibility, however small, that such a miraculous discovery could be sitting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or a handful of coins handed out at store, because the most valuable error coins in history were not found by experts, but by ordinary people who simply paid attention. And the 1994 P dime stands as a reminder that anything is possible when billions of coins are produced and even the smallest lapse in machinery or timing can create something monumental. This is the thrill of numismatics. Every dime, every quarter, and every penny carries the potential for a hidden story, and the 1994 P dime embodies this excitement, inspiring collectors to look closer, search deeper, and never underestimate even the smallest coin, because treasures are never loud. They hide quietly until the right eyes finally recognize them, and that moment can change everything. Last, today we're exploring the fascinating possibility of a 2002 D dime being worth an incredible $6 million due to a combination of rare mint errors, unusual production mistakes, and freak anomalies that transform an ordinary Denver mint dime into a once-in-a-lifetime collectible that serious numismatists would do anything to own. Because when billions of coins are struck each year, even the most advanced machinery can make mistakes, and it is in those tiny cracks of imperfection where million-dollar opportunities are born. So get ready as we take a deep dive into what could make a 2002 D dime so rare, so unique, and so valuable that its worth reaches into the multi-million-dollar range. When discussing the potential of a modern dime soaring into this level of value, the focus always turns to dramatic mint errors, because unlike older coins where historical rarity drives prices, modern coins need truly extraordinary mistakes to stand out. And one of the most exciting possibilities is the wrong planchet error, where a dime die accidentally strikes a planchet mint for another denomination or even a foreign coin, something that has happened multiple times throughout U.S. minting history. And if a 2002 D dime were struck on a planchet mint for a cent, nickel, or foreign currency, the size, color, weight, and thickness would be completely off compared to a normal dime, making it instantly identifiable and incredibly desirable. And if this error occurred on a leftover planchet from a special short-run foreign contract, which the mint handled occasionally, the coin could become unique and worth millions. Another major driver of value could be a bold double die strike, because while subtle doubling exists on many coins, what collectors dream of is dramatic, unmistakable doubling that jumps out at first glance, especially on key design elements like the date, the portrait of Roosevelt, the inscriptions, or the torch and branches on the reverse. And a 2002 D dime with strong doubling would be extremely rare, because quality control was generally strong in the early 2000s, so the existence of such an error would instantly elevate the coin into the numismatic spotlight as a major modern discovery capable of commanding astronomical value. Equally exciting is the possibility of a major off-center strike, but not the minor ones that shift slightly. Collectors get most excited about extreme off-centers where the design is dramatically displaced, leaving a large portion of the planchet blank while still retaining the date and mint mark. And if a 2002D dime showed an off-center error of 40% or more combined with readable identifying features, collectors would flock to it because modern dramatic errors are inherently scarcer due to improved minting technology and stricter oversight. Another impressive and highly valuable type of error is the broad strike or partial collar strike, which happens when the coin is struck without proper containment in the collar, causing it to spread outward unnaturally, flattening the rim and sometimes giving the surface a distorted or stretched appearance. And if such a broad strike were paired with another error, such as a clipped planchet, die crack, or minor off-center misalignment, the combined error effect would dramatically boost the coin's desirability and value. We also have the possibility of die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions of the opposite design engraved into each die. And when these dies later strike actual coins, the result is a mysterious, haunting appearance where faint outlines of Roosevelt appear on the reverse or the torch design appears behind his portrait. And while mild clashing is not extremely rare, heavy die clashes that produce clear, overlapping imagery are significantly more desirable and can raise a coin's value tremendously, especially on a modern date like 2002, where heavy clashing would be unexpected. Another dramatic and extremely rare possibility is a mule error, where two dies that were never meant to be paired are accidentally combined, such as a dime obverse with a foreign reverse or even a mismatched denomination. And mule coins are among the rarest and most valuable errors ever produced by the U.S. Mint, with some selling for 6 and 7 figures. And the idea of a 2002D dime mule error instantly pushes its hypothetical value into the multi-million-dollar range because of how unprecedented and extraordinary such an event would be in the 21st century. Another factor that could elevate the value of a 2002D dime to unbelievable heights is a dramatic mint mark anomaly, such as a double D mint mark, a tilted mint mark, or a mint mark placed unusually high, low, or off its normal alignment. And while mint marks became more standardized around this time, abnormalities could still occur as dies wore down or were repunched during maintenance. And unique mint mark variations are always beloved by collectors, especially when they occur alongside other dramatic errors. There's also the rare possibility of a transitional metal error, where a coin is struck using an outdated or experimental planchet composition, something that has happened before with cents and nickels, creating some of the most valuable modern coins in existence. And if a 2002D dime were accidentally struck on a silver, bronze, or experimental alloy planchet, its uniqueness would immediately send its value soaring into the millions, as metal composition errors are among the most scientifically verifiable and historically fascinating errors in all of numismatics. Another possibility collectors consider is an extreme die deterioration error, where the dies used to strike the coin become severely worn, cracked, or damaged, leaving thick die cracks, cuds, or unusual surface textures that create visually dramatic effects. And if such deterioration produced a one-of-a-kind appearance, especially one that affected major design elements or created raised lumps of metal, the coin could become highly valuable as a modern major error. The reason these theoretical combinations matter is because the value of an error coin multiplies exponentially when multiple extreme errors appear together. And for a coin like the 2002D dime to reach a valuation as high as $6 million, it wouldn't just have one error. It would likely feature 2, 3, or even 4 incredible mistakes occurring simultaneously, such as a wrong planchet double dime mule strike or an off-center broad strike with severe die clashes and a mint mark anomaly. Something so extraordinary and unprecedented that it becomes a one-of-one specimen unlike anything else known to collectors. And this is what makes the world of coin collecting so thrilling. Even though the chances are incredibly small, the possibility always exists that one extraordinary coin slipped through the mint's machinery and into the hands of everyday people, waiting to be discovered years later in a pocket, drawer, coin roll, or jar of change. And if a coin like this were to be found today, it would instantly become a global sensation, featured in numismatic publications, displayed at conventions, and fiercely competed over by collectors and investors who understand just how important and valuable a unique mint error truly is. The hypothetical 2000 2D dime worth $6 million serves as a reminder that even modern coins can carry unbelievable value when the right combination of errors align. And it inspires collectors everywhere to keep looking closely, checking every coin, searching through rolls, examining details, and never overlooking the smallest denominations. Because history has shown time and time again that life-changing discoveries often hide in the simplest places, waiting for someone curious enough to notice them.